My name is Toby, and I will be going to different places with the volunteers from Rescue Me Animal Sanctuary to see how they raise funds and how hard it is to raise enough funds for the animal sanctuary. I will be going to different locations to film bucket collections and a fundraiser with the volunteers to see how they raise money for their charity. I will be doing interviews with some of the volunteers and people from the public to see what they think about how they raise funds and how charities are struggling money because of the cost of living crisis.
Yeah, Pixie lives here. We don't have many animals on site. I think you've been told that already, but you live here, don't you? Except when you try to get in people's cars.
The first place I'm going to is Tesco to film a bucket collection.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Got a little green light. Pop it on there.
Brilliant,
Would you like a receipt?
No.
Well, let me just show you. It is £5, not 50 or 500. So that's lovely. Thank you so much for your support.
That's it. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Can I give you a little leaflet about our absolute fair as well?
Yes.
On 22nd.
Ocean Cuthbert's, yeah.
At Tesco, they raised money by doing a bucket collection. As you can see, it's not just the adults that like giving, it's the children too. The volunteers are giving leaflets about the fundraiser to the public so they know where it is and how to get there. The fundraiser will have lots of things, from clothes and bags to cakes and jams.
There you go.
Good.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you for your support.
Now I will ask one of the volunteers some questions.
I'm one of the fundraising volunteers. Fundraising is really crucial for us because that's what keeps us going. And there's a band of us who go out and do face-to-face fundraising, like collecting and events. But there's also people who raise funds through raffles and online work and all that stuff. But we're basically the face-to-face fundraisers. It's amazing really because it's such a good cause. Our hearts are very much with the cause, and that's why we work so hard for it, because you know at the end of the day you're saving animals' lives, and that's really important. Meeting people, I think, because I think if you're going to do face-to-face fundraising, you've got to be a people person. And all our group, we are all chatty, we're all sociable people, and I think that makes it a big difference. You interact with the people who are giving you money, you tell them about the sanctuary and this sort of thing. So I think the people side of it, the meeting people, is very good. I enjoy that. Oh, thank you so much. Can I give you a little leaflet about our spring fair as well? No, no, not really. I've always loved animals. I've always had a house full of animals, but it was through my vet that I got involved in an animal sanctuary in the first place when I retired, and he said to me, "You're going to have loads of time on your hands, and I know you're a good organiser, and this sanctuary could do with some help, and I think you should give it a go." And I did, and that was a long time ago. I've got 2 cats now. I also foster hedgehogs for the local vet as well. So that's sort of my cats are my thing. Well, I don't work directly with the animals so much because we're foster based. The animals come in, they're assessed, and then they go out to fosterers. Although I do some transport of animals, help out taking animals to the vets or picking them up from the fosterer to take to the sanctuary to see the vet. So I do a bit of that. And I also pick up animals that are being surrendered to us, which that can be quite harrowing because people are giving up a much loved pet sometimes, and that can be really quite upsetting. But you know it's the best thing for the animal at the end of the day, so that's good. It's affected all charities. We're having to work a lot harder for the same amount of money because people just haven't got the money to give you. So on the income side, it's harder to get the money in. But of course, and our costs have gone up like everybody's. The cost of animal feed's gone up, the cost of our gas and electric's gone up, all that sort of thing as well. But it's a double whammy for us because people are having to surrender their pets because they can't afford to keep them anymore. So we're being asked to take animals from people who've had a pet for maybe several years who can no longer afford to keep that pet, and that's upsetting for them. It's upsetting for us, and all the rescues all over the country are absolutely rammed. It's not just us; it's happening everywhere. So, but all charities are struggling to raise funds, but we've got the double whammy of having to try and look after more animals too because people can't afford to keep them. Yeah, well, I'm a pensioner, so it's. I feel a difference in the costs as well. Particularly things like gas and electric, I think, have made a big difference to me. But also things like my cat food. The cat food my boys have used to cost £12 a pack, and now it costs £19 a pack. So that's a huge difference. And it's very difficult for people on low incomes to manage that. I mean, I'm fortunate in that I've been able to keep my pets and to keep paying my bills. But a lot of people are really desperately struggling, and we see that. And that's why another reason why we run the community neutering scheme for people who can't afford to neuter their animals. So I'm one of the lucky ones. It's always a struggle. Our biggest problem at the moment, sort of looking longer term, is that we need to do up the farmhouse. The farmhouse needs a lot of work on it, and that's big capital expenditure. So we're talking hundreds of thousands, probably a couple of 100,000 to do it. So we're covering our running costs, more or less. Our little band last year we raised 47,000, which is about half of our running costs. The rest of our running costs come from the money we get from rehoming animals, other fundraisers that people do for us, and people who leave us money, various other things. So we're just about covering our running costs, but trying to raise the money to do capital work is a real challenge for us at the moment, and will be for the next 4 or 5 years till we get the farm all finished up. I don't think anybody thought it would happen the way it did, because it was no one thing. It was a perfect storm of a number of things, and I think it took everybody by surprise, including me. But I think so much of it is outside our control. You can't do much about your gas and electric prices. You can't do much about the prices of food in the shops. So it is a case of people just having to get on with it, and I don't think anybody would have imagined it would all come together in the way it did all at once. So it's difficult times for so many people at the moment. The sanctuary, it affected us in a lot of ways. It made it very difficult for us to go out and raise funds, because when we were on lockdown we simply couldn't do any fundraising apart from online fundraising and raffles and things like that. We did carry on rehoming animals throughout COVID-19, but again it changed the way we did it. We could no longer do home checks by going to people's houses. It had to be done through videos of their homes and done over the phone and this sort of thing. So it changed our approach there. But also I think since the end of COVID, when things have sort of gone back to normal, we've picked up, and other animal sanctuaries have also picked up the dogs, and particularly dogs that people took on during COVID and when they were at home, and then find now they've got to go back to work. They can't cope with the dog for whatever reason, and those dogs are now looking for homes. So we've picked that up as well. So it's affected us in lots of different ways. We miss the going out and doing the fundraising, of course, because that's what we do. That's what we do best, and what we enjoy. For me personally, yes, I didn't see my grandchildren for 3 months, and that was awful. But there were people a lot worse off than me. People who had people in hospital who couldn't go and see them, and people who lost family and couldn't be there at the end, and this sort of thing. So, we did do Zoom meetings and stuff, but it's not the same as a cuddle. You can't cuddle on a Zoom meeting.
Now, we have finished at Tesco, So next week we will be going to Dobby's Garden Centres. We are at Dobby's Garden Centres in Southport, and the volunteers have set up another bucket collection to help raise funds for the animal sanctuary. Some of the locations were filmed around Easter, so there was someone in an Easter bunny costume, but now it is after Easter, so they are dressed up in a cat costume to entertain the children and put a smile on everyone's face. There are also some cat puppets too. It was great to see everyone spending their time to donate and ask about the fundraiser. Next, we will go to Pets at Home, where I filmed another bucket collection. There was a bucket collection outside and a cake sale and teddy tombola inside.
So this is Diva. She's a 13-week-old whippet. Yeah. Oh, we've got our rescue going home. Oh, have you?
Rescue Me Animal Sanctuary set up a fundraiser in St Cuthbert's Church Hall in Churchtown. I will interview one of the volunteers again, but ask questions more about the cost of living crisis.
Well, we always need more funds because there's always more things you want to do, more animals you want to help. I think it's difficult for us because we've got a major rebuilding project we need to do at the sanctuary, so we need a lot of money to turn the farm into the first-class rescue facility that we really want there. And because of the cost of living crisis, instead of doing it in one big fell swoop, we're having to do it in bits and pieces. But we'll get there in the end. But there's never enough money. I guess I'm quite lucky because as a pensioner I've got a reasonable income, so I've not been too bad, but I think like everybody else you're worrying about the utility bills, yeah, you're worrying about the rising cost of food. I mean, and I've got pets too, and of course the cat food, the dog food is all going through the roof as well, so it is a worry that the things are not going to get any better in the short term. That's the biggest worry. From what I know of people with small businesses, a lot of them are really struggling. They've been hit very hard by being closed for COVID and then having to weather that. Then they've reopened, and then we've had the cost of living crisis on top of it. Particularly businesses where they are just a small family business, for instance, and they've found that their customer base has declined. People are not coming and buying as much, or they're not coming in as often. So their income's gone down, but of course at the same time their overheads, their gas, electric bills and all sorts of things have continued to increase, as well as the cost of raw materials or whatever it might be. So they've been hit with a double whammy as well. Besides Rescue Me, yeah. I feel like I support quite a few charities, a mixture of animal charities and people charities, mainly by direct debit, which is the best way to support any charity, because from the charity's point of view, it's regular income that you depend on, and that's something that Rescue Me has noticed a decline of since the cost of living crisis. People have cancelled their direct debits because they can't guarantee they can keep them up. So they give you an ad hoc donation, but it's a different kettle of fish entirely, committing to £10 a month or something like that. But so far I've managed to keep my charity donations up, and I hope I can. I absolutely love it. I mean, I'm very much a people person, and I believe very much in what Rescue Me is doing. I work with a brilliant bunch of people. Our fundraising team are an absolutely cracking bunch of people who are all very dedicated and work very hard to make these events work and to make our collections work and so on. And we all get on well together, so it's a social thing for me as well, and for a lot of us as well, but it's a social thing with a purpose, and that's as good as it gets. Today I think we've done very well. I won't necessarily do the final count up of money, but we certainly raised more than £1,000 today, which is great. And the money that we're raising today is going towards the doggy hospice, which we're building currently to provide end-of-life care for sick dogs and unwanted dogs that are coming out of dog wardens. So that's, again, a cause very close to all our hearts. So it's really nice to see this money coming in like this. People are very generous with what they've got, but everybody else is feeling the pinch as well. But you do notice it with collections down here, where people who would give you paper money at one time, now it's pounds and £2. But it all adds up, and we all enjoy working together. We all get on well together. We're working for something we're all passionate about.
Now let's see what they are selling at the fundraiser. They are selling a lot of clothes, as well as shoes, handbags and purses. They are also selling some crockery and mugs, as well as jewellery, bracelets and hair bows. There is also some bric-a-brac and other items that you can buy. There is a seating area for anyone who wants to sit down and eat some cake or rest their legs. Now I will interview 2 people from the public.
I imagine that it would depend on the business. I mean, some businesses won't be affected at all, like supermarkets, but others, if it's a restaurant or something, people are likely to go out far less.
Yeah,
and I think they always live hand to mouth.
The thing is, people have stopped giving to charity at the moment because of the rising cost of living. So yes, any charity that's good. And unfortunately, during the pandemic, people were buying pets or getting pets, and now apparently they're abandoning them. So need more money, yeah.
I must admit, I don't really support local charities unless I come to something like this. But most of my money that I pay for charities goes in direct debits to more national and international. So I hadn't even thought about local charities until you mentioned it.
No, it's funny because like with like you said, Red Cross or Salvation Army, they were doing on Wall Street doing collections, and I said, "Is this for the local Salvation Army?" I said, "For naturally," she says, "Local," and I felt quite relieved because local people should be helping to support them. What's going on in their town. Yes.
Yes, very much. Very much.
Do you enjoy
Fundraisers.
Oh yes, of course, yes they are. We get a nice group of people that like to come and share.
Yes, I work for cancer research. I work in the store in Formby, and I work behind the till, and I work in the back shop.
Well, I just popped a letter telling me the increase in my gas, and I was quite shocked. I'm going to have to take some advice about it because it has increased a lot, and I'm like one of the lucky ones because I've got pension income and I own my own home. So anyone that's got a young family must be really scared about getting these increases in the month, in the bill. So. And I'm really against them forcing people to have these meters where they've got to pay in advance. I think that was scandalous. So charities, unfortunately, are needed more and more, aren't they?
Fortunately for me, though I've noticed price increases, it's not really hurt me financially. I'm very fortunate.
There are a lot of delicious cakes and treats to choose from, and you can eat them in the seating area or take them home to share with the family. They also have jams and marmalades, as well as pickles, chutneys and chocolate novelties. These cupcakes look delicious and people bought them quite fast. In fact, I would say the cakes are one of the things that went the fastest. There are a lot of jigsaws and pictures which are a good price. There is a contactless machine too, because not everyone carries cash these days, so it comes in handy. They have a gift tombola which has many different items for everyone. I'm going to interview another one of the volunteers to see their perspective on charities struggling with money.
I'm a volunteer for the fundraising team. So, events like today or collecting outside various shops, I happily stand there and see if people will donate money or, as I said, I help here. Well, I don't actually work at the sanctuary, but I love the fundraising because we raise the funds and then the sanctuary can do things like they're putting in the doggy hospice at the minute. So we contribute to that type of thing. I would think it's affected in that people don't have as much disposable income. So we're having to work harder to get more money in. We're having to have more events, to get the money in. But Steph has also expanded, so we need more money anyway. So we just have to keep going. Put it this way, if we have more funds, we can do more. There's always more that can be done. There's the low-cost neutering, there's helping the fosters out, the people who foster the animals, and of course the new doggy hospice. So whatever we get, I'm sure the sanctuary can spend. Well, we're having to cut back on luxuries, shall we say, whereas I used to think, oh, I know what, I'll have that. I'll buy 5 books in a week. Now I think, no, maybe not. And books are my passion. Oh well, I think you've only got to walk down Lord Street in Southport and you see how people are struggling. Lovely little businesses, and one of my favourites has just had to shut. A lovely family-run business. Can't do it anymore. They've had to shut. And that's 5 people out of work. I would say a lot of businesses out there are struggling, yes. People do not have the fun money anymore. Rescue Me, I give my time. I also make blankets and things for the raffles, and I donate anyway. And I support other charities by donating every month a small amount to each charity each month. Yes, very much so. Yes, it's fun. You meet nice people, you're doing something for a good cause, which is animals, and I love animals, so yes, I love it very much.
Here is one of the tombolas where there are a lot of different prizes. And there is a teddy tombola where everyone is a winner. Just buy a ticket and you can win a teddy every time. There are lots of toys to be won. Just like that, the time has gone from 11:15 to 12 o'clock, and a lot of things have been sold. Most of the cakes on the table have already been sold, so they've had to put more out. They are making a few things in the back too. Some things have sold more than others, but it is great support from the public. It is very helpful of everyone to donate their money to this charity. The cakes have sold a lot, so they keep having to bring more out. Everyone must like cake, but I have to say it is going fast. But it's not just the humans that came along to the fundraiser, it's dogs and other animals too. Some people brought their dogs along with them. Now, all the cakes are gone and the fundraiser is over. So let's head over to the animal sanctuary and interview the veterinary nurse to find out what she does and how the cost of living crisis has affected her job.
So I am Rescue Me's veterinary nurse. I manage the neutering clinic and I also manage a team of volunteer vets who come and help us with spaying and neutering and castrating cats. So it has affected it. I would say that we see quite a lot of people for access to our low-cost neutering services as well, which I feel is something that's really important to help reduce the sort of unwanted and sick cat population that we have in Liverpool. So we get a lot more people coming to us to ask us for financial help with neutering, because people want to do the right thing, they want to neuter their cats, but sometimes they might not have the financial means to do that, particularly if they've got more than one cat as well, or if, you know, they've just had a litter of kittens and things, which isn't something that we would advocate for, but you know, they've had those kittens and we need to make sure that they're looked after for the rest of their life, which is why we set up the neutering scheme in the first place. So I think that the costs of a lot of things have gone up. You know, don't you? If you go out to eat or drink now, everything's gone up, and so that's had a knock-on effect with businesses. With the veterinary industry, there's quite a lot of workforce shortages at the moment as well. So they've tried to help that by increasing the wages, but then also the cost of everything's gone up, so it's kind of I don't know what the word is to kind of offset it really, but it doesn't really, it's still there. You know, we're still paying a lot more for things than we used to, say, a few years ago. So we see it a little bit here with our network of charities that we work with as well, and it's just difficult at the moment, because particularly working in sort of an industry like rescue and veterinary, people want to do the best for their pets, but quite often they are restricted with finances and things, so it's difficult sometimes. I definitely don't go out as much as I used to. So I used to go out and sort of see friends, and you know, we'd go for tea after work and maybe go to for a couple of drinks and things like that. But yeah, I just don't really do that anymore at the moment, which, I mean, I may not be the best person to ask, because I also do take my work home with me sometimes as well. So quite often I do have sort of sick kittens and puppies and things to nurse as well. But it's just difficult at the moment. Everything's gone up, but you know, I don't have as much disposable income as sort of I did once have. So yeah, that's the main thing really that I've noticed. But with my friend group, I'm quite lucky. We do still see them. We just do things inside instead at each other's houses. We're a rescue centre predominantly, so that means that we take in animals that are abandoned, unwanted, sick, injured, and we sort of nurse them back to health to a point where they can go and they can find their forever home. That's what we like to call it, because hopefully it works out. You know, we've got really good home checkers in place, so we admit animals and we adopt them out. We've got an adoption scheme for predominantly cats and dogs, but we do also see quite a lot of guinea pigs, rabbits, hamsters, the odd bird, parrot, budgies we've had recently as well, rats. So we've got that at the moment. In response to the COVID pandemic, we also set up this veterinary room here. So the room was set up originally because the preventative services at vets, they weren't really taking place. Vets went down to an emergency only service, so it was sort of life and death emergencies. So that meant all neutering stopped, vaccinations stopped, you know, parasite treatment, that all stopped. And that's what we really try and work towards. So because we are part of like a rescue professional body, we have to meet certain standards before pets go up for rehoming. So that means that they are all neutered, vaccinated and treated for parasites, and then when that stopped, that made our work a lot more difficult. So we set up this vet room to be able to continue that work during the pandemic, obviously, you know, legally compliant. But then we also noticed that people were really struggling to afford neutering for their cats, or we were picking up the pieces from people not neutering their cats during the pandemic with more litters and more sick kittens coming through. So we decided to open the doors to the community and offer them low cost neutering as well, just to try and help people out a bit. Yeah, so the rescue was set up by Steph, who's our founder, 10 years ago, I believe. And I think she set it up in her house initially because she just saw the massive need there was to help people with unwanted pets as well at that time. So we have obviously moved from there. We've taken on some staff members to help with the huge intake of animals that we see sort of on a daily basis, and the, you know, I'd probably say we get at least 30 requests a day really to take in animals, so it's very much a service that's in need. And then we have got a few of our rescue staff as well. So then we moved here, and then sort of we've been able to expand our sort of reach almost. So we've got a cattery, we don't have a kennels really at the moment, but we are working on a project with that. And then we've got the veterinary room as well. So we just try and think of what an animal may need throughout its life, and then we try and help towards that before they go to their forever homes. Yeah, so the new hospice is a really exciting project. So Steph, our founder, is really involved with work with the local council and the local dog wardens, and Steph helps to place dogs into rescue. So they are assessed in the kennels, and then a certain few that say if they've got 10 in a block, and those 10 need rescue spaces, Steph will be that person that will try and place them in a rescue, sort of whether it's in Scotland, whether it's in Devon, you know, Buckinghamshire, she will find a place for them. So we were noticing that, probably in part due to the cost of living crisis as well, that we're seeing quite a lot of elderly dogs that are in the warden's sort of kennel block, and the warden has a legal obligation to collect all stray dogs that they find on the streets that are brought into a vet's, all that kind of stuff. So we do see quite a lot of elderly dogs, and there was one recently by the name of Angel who was really cute. She was lovely, a very small tiny collie, and she was in the kennel block, and she was really poorly. She used to walk around in circles, and she was going through some sort of older lady life changes. So Steph brought her back here, and we were able to sort of assess her, and she had a really painful mouth, her joints were a bit sore as well, she had some inside changes as well, so with her liver and things. So we were able to start her on medication to sort of help all of those things as well. And then that's what was the inspiration behind developing the hospice, just to make sure that if dogs do need that end of life care and they're okay, that we can make them as comfortable as possible during that time.
And now, let's look at the new hospice they are building. There are already 2 dogs in there that are getting the help and support they need. Let's see what it looks like so far. There are multiple rooms for the dogs. Some rooms can have 2 dogs, some can have 1. It looks nice from the inside and outside, and will be a really nice place to house more dogs once it is finished. This documentary is coming to an end, but let's recap what happened. I went to a few different places to see what it's like doing bucket collections and how the volunteers raise money in this way. I then went to the fundraiser where they had lots of things to buy and you could sit down and have a slice of cake with a nice cup of tea or coffee. There were lots of pets that came along to see what it's all about, and everyone helped the charity raise money by coming along to the fundraiser and buying things they need and by donating at the bucket collections. I have found out how charities are struggling with money during these tough times and how much time and effort everyone puts into raising the money to help the animals. This has been a great experience for me and I'm glad I could work with such amazing people. Thank you all for watching and thank you everyone who gives up their time to help out and organise these events.